Hello everybody, so today we're doing a LS400 92 to 94 into an IS200 plug and play with a J160 6-speed manual bolted on the back from the IS200. So let's get into it. Right, so as we said, LS400 92 to 94, you can tell that because it's got the same plugs as the 95 to 97, just there in the middle and not offset to one side. Useful tip there for you. So this is obviously completely brand new built. We no longer use the 1UZ non-VVTi harnesses as a base to work from, simply because they are very, very old. We're finding a lot of corrosion in there, which is causing problems with things like TPS sensors and any sort of sensitive signals that the ECU does need. So we replace everything with brand new. Also means that we incorporate everything into the harness, where usually you have different sections over there. So first thing we're going to do is we'll take a look at the build process so you can see exactly what it looks like underneath. Obviously it is all covered in heat shrink, so it's all sealed up and concentrically twisted and everything. So let's do that now and come back. What it looks like underneath. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the layout. So this is for a customer named Nathan. This is mostly to tell him exactly where everything goes, and we'll explain everything so you guys that are interested in this product know exactly how it works. So starting for there, we've got the ECU box. You've got your 4 ECU plugs, again all separate so you can't plug the wrong one into the wrong one. You've got your 3 body plugs, so you've got your blue, your grey and your black, and they all plug directly in. And then you've got your patch resin over here, which then interfaces with the 2 IS200 ECU plugs that are already in your ECU box. Okay, then coming out of the grommet over here, we've got the little section to go to your igniters. So we've done it like this so you can mount the igniters on the top of the strut tower, and pretty much the same way the IS300 and the GS300 mount their igniter on the top of the strut tower here. Coming along here, then we're going to have a breakout over here where the harness is going to make its way around the engine and the front section which goes down. So this front section is normally a separate one. So you'll see sometimes in the original engines you had these two grey plugs here, either a 6 and a 2 or a 6 and a 4. They're obviously gone now, so we just incorporate it all into one. So coming down here, you have a breakout section over there, which then goes off to your cam for the left bank, and you'll see everything is labeled. So you'll see cam L written over there. Then the harness comes down this section over here and breaks out over here to go to all the things that are down below. So starting off, you've got your coil. So you see that says ignition left. Then we're going to break off for your AC. So this will go to your AC compressor. Then we're breaking off and coming through this little hole over here. And both of these can go, including the lambda. I just haven't done it because it's just easier to dangle it down here. So you can go through the hole over there. Then it breaks out and it goes down to your oil pressure switch. So you can see your oil pressure switch, the gray section over there. Then we've got our O2 lambda sensor, which then goes along and runs along the block like that. It's a bit difficult to see because I've got mounts in the way, but it's just plugged in at the bottom there. So we do that to keep this wire away from the exhaust. You don't have to worry about heat. Normally they would come through a little gap at the back there, but we've changed that to keep this away from heat and make it safer. Then also coming down through here, you've got your crank sensor plug. So obviously that is going to go straight there. So all down here, you've basically got your crank sensor, your air con, your coil for the left bank, your oil pressure switch, and your lambda sensor over there, and then your cam sensor for this side up at the front there. All right, so looking at that, then it's going to split around the back over here. You do have a little section there, you can P-clamp it down over there. The harness is very flexible, so you can bend it into whatever position you want. And then coming around the back over here, we've then got the split out for stuff at the rear of the engine. So starting with off, we've got the gearbox harness, which comes down along here, and there's your reverse switch. So this is for the J160 6-speed manual. And then you've got your 3-pin speed sensor plug, again for the J160 manual. We also have the section of the harness that goes underneath the inlet manifold, and that goes to your 2 knock sensors and your starter motor. So that's again an all brand new harness that's built up. What you will notice is, like the 3UZs, what we're starting to do is we are actually incorporating twin core shielded cables for both knock sensors. Now the reason we do that is because obviously we can get the ECU headers and we can make a plug and play to an aftermarket ECU. And obviously what's important about that is then if you want to run wideband knock sensors, you can. And obviously this particular engine, if the engine matches the ECU, it's a 92 to 94, so it's a thick rod, so it's quite useful if he wants to go to aftermarket. We can then sell him a sub harness that goes down, including knock sensors, to be wideband rather than the narrow band that you've got in there. Then we've got the ground coming off, and that goes to an 8mm ring terminal over here. And you've got your 3 holes over here, you'll see at the back of your motor. Don't use this one because it's got a massive hole in it and the ring doesn't clamp down properly. Use the top one over here. It takes an M8 bolt. These both take an M8 bolt, but this one just has a much more flat surface, which gives you much more contact for the ring terminal for the ground over there. And then coming along here, we've got our injector and our idle control valve sub harness. So that's a 12 and a 6-pin DTM plug. What I will do is I'm going to put a link up in the top here, and that will take you to the video on how to install this inside this inlet manifold and what it looks like underneath there. So again, please watch that before you install everything so you know exactly what to do. All right, what we're going to do now is move over to the other side. And then you'll see the harness then just carries on along here. Obviously there's loads of little sections here where you can clamp it down, like over there. And then coming up along here, then it's going to come up along the fuel rail. It's going to go under the throttle body, and you can see down in there, there's a little breakout point over there, which then breaks out for your TPS plug, which comes out there. Again, it is all labeled, so you don't have to worry too much about that. You'll know exactly what it is. And then the harness carries on along the fuel rail here to where it breaks out at the front. And then this is going to be a little bit difficult because obviously all these covers cover everything. But coming out of here, you've got your single wire temp sensor. Now that's going to be used for the temp gauge on the actual cluster. Then underneath there, which is basically underneath this cover here, you've got your coolant temp sensor, which is the 2-wire one. And then coming underneath here, we've got your cam sensor, which plugs in there. And then your actual coil plug, which plugs in just over there. Okay. And then the rest of it breaks out to over here, and then we have a split just over here, and then that splits off and that goes to your mass airflow sensor. Then the harness comes down a little bit and we have another split over here, and then that goes off to your alternator. So again, what we've done is the alternator's on a sub harness, so if you ever want to change over, or in this case, some of the older 1UZs came with a round plug, not the oval plug. So if you need to change it and you'd have to use a different alternator, again, we can get it. Now, as you can see, this is a 3UZ alternator, so it bolts straight up. So if you wanted to get the much higher amperage ones from like a GS430, so 6-speed, like the 3rd generation, so from like 05 to 08, you can then just come and can supply you a separate sub harness that'll run that 4-pin alternator on there as well. And then the other breakout that comes down here is going to be your lambda sensor. So that's all plugged in over there again. So that's designed just to run along the block there like that and plug directly into the lambda sensor. All right, so that is the entire layout. So hopefully that's relatively straightforward. And Nathan, when you come to fit it, because everything is labeled, and if you watch this video through, you should be able to put this on absolutely no problem at all. Obviously it will require the intake coming off. So just bear that in mind, because you've got to get underneath to those starters and knock sensors, and you've got to do the injector and ACIS harness. So usually I say that's a good time to replace the inlet manifold gaskets that actually go to the head, and then to get the 4 gaskets that go between the actual manifold itself when you lift it up. If yours are in very good condition, fine, but it is a good time if you want to get those, and those parts are still available from Toyota. I bought them just the other day to do this engine. So this has got new gaskets to the inlet manifold and new gaskets for the splitting of the inlet manifold itself, as well as the paper gasket. You can still get that from Toyota as well. So if you guys want to know, let me know, and in the description down below I'll put the part numbers for you if you guys need them. All right, so next thing we're going to do is obviously the testing, which is going to involve starting the engine, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go out, we're going to check everything, get it all started up, make sure that it's warm enough so you can see the temperature gauge. But we'll be back in a second. Cheers. All right, so for the testing, we're going to do 2 sections. One is without the engine running, one is with the engine running. Without the engine running, we're going to check things like the ambient temperature, the lights on the dash, We're going to go and we're going to do the reverse switch to make sure that that is working, and also we are going to look at the speedo signal, so again making sure that that circuit is all working. Once we've done that, then we're going to go over to actually running the engine, and we're going to do a couple of tests there. So obviously we're testing things like the starter circuit. We're going to make sure the tacho signal is coming through to the dash, the coolant temp gauge is working, and that the injectors and coils are working. We're going to pull each injector out one by one, and that'll confirm that every single cylinder is firing as it should. As we pull them out, we'll get a misfire. Then we're going to go through the code section, how to read them, and then we'll carry on with that. So first thing we're going to do is, as it's plug and play, we're just literally going to come and switch our ignition on. Once we do that, obviously everything in the car comes alive, and you'll see there we're displaying 18 degrees on the dash. Now remember, with the analog device, so all of our non-VVTIs, because the standard ECUs don't have MPX communication built into them, that 18 degrees is just going to be a constant 18 degrees. We sent it there just so that you don't have the annoying E that displays up on the dash there. Our device doesn't actually sense the ambient temperature, so it's not going to change, not going to go up and down. It's just going to sit there so you get rid of the E. Coming over to the dash now, we have got the check engine light on, so we know the ECU is working. We have got the oil light on, so we know that communication is coming from our device, which is sensed via the oil pressure switch. You'll notice the battery light isn't on. That's absolutely fine. The analog device, to save on inputs and putting loads of stuff in, it doesn't actually sense the alternator from that's there. What it does is it takes the voltage, and if it drops below like 11.2 volts, then the alternator light will come on. So in most cases, this is what you're going to see. And also the low oil level, which is at the top here, and your TRC, those are the bulbs you need to remove out of your dash, because obviously they are going to just keep flashing, because those two systems aren't going to work anymore, because the original 1UZ non-VVTi ECU doesn't have the ability to read low oil level from the actual ECU itself, okay? But all of the rest is going to work, including the fuel gauge and the temp gauge, etc. And just while we're here, you can actually see that the temp gauge is working and it's coming through there. Regarding the temp gauge, it is adjustable via our device. So we have made our device not just for Toyota engines. It's designed for things like the non-VVTi 1UZs, non-VVTi 1JZs. But also if you guys wanted to put a BMW engine in your IS200 or a Nissan engine in your IS200, that's the idea, that's the concept. So the device can take analog signals, so it actually doesn't care what engine is in here. You literally, we're feeding it a coolant temp sensor signal from here. We're feeding it an oil pressure light just from an oil pressure switch, and it's working with just those analog signals, and it's sorting everything else out as it should. Okay, and regards to the tacho, what the device is doing as well is it's converting a 6-cylinder to a 4-cylinder, sorry, a 4-cylinder to a 6-cylinder signal. Because obviously the non-VVTi, well, all the UZs give out a 4-cylinder signal. We need a 6-cylinder for the IS200. Okay, so that's the dash and everything sorted out there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over and we're going to do the reverse and the speedo. So I'm just going to move that around because we need to actually look at it. So for the reverse, it's really nice and simple. All I'm going to do is I'm going to bridge the reverse switch together here. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to grab the wire as we do that. And as you can see, I'm just bridging that with the switches, what your gearbox will do, and you can hear that the buzzer sound is working. So I know all the reverse circuit is 100% okay inside, directly from the switch all the way to the inside of the vehicle. Moving over to the speed signal now. So on the J160 and the R154, you've got a 3-wire Hall effect speed sensor. This is our little device that converts tacho or speed signals for vehicles. So you'll see this on our 3UZ where we remap them, and so we don't need to use this little MPX device. So we use this to convert the 4-cylinder signal to a 6-cylinder signal. Has a test function, so basically what I'm doing is I'm powering it up and I'm putting the test function signal through there, and then you'll see that our speedo is going to shoot up from there, and we'll do that in a second. So obviously I'm using the 3 wires in here because I want to make sure that the 12 volts and the ground coming to this plug are okay, which we know they are because I can actually see that the LED is flashing there. So I know we're getting power there. I'm just going to quickly put it into test mode, just so we can have that signal outputting from the device. So that's absolutely fine. So now I'm in test mode from there. I'm just going to connect the yellow wire up to the speed sensor plug. So basically I'm literally just doing that. And just to show you, as I do that, you'll see that the speedo needle is going up and down. Okay, so now I know that the wiring all the way from the plug to the cluster itself in an IS200 is absolutely fine and perfect. Okay, so that's all the ones we're going to do without the engine running. Now I'm just going to move this back around here. So just give me a second, and then we're going to come back, and then we're actually going to start the vehicle up, and then we're going to do that. So bear with me a second. Okay, so now we're going to carry on with the testing with the engine itself actually running. So again, we're testing the starter circuit. We're going to make sure the tacho signal is coming through on the dash. We're going to make sure the coolant temp works, which we have already done. We're also going to make sure that each and every cylinder is firing as it should by removing injectors one by one. And then we're going to get into the codes, how you read them, what happens when you do, etc. So again, plug and play, nice and easy. You're just going to come to your key barrel, switch it on, and there you go. And also we can see that the tacho is working, the coolant temp is working. So now we're going to come over and do all of the injectors. So we're just going to go and we're going to do 1, 3, 5, and 7. Coming over here, we're going to do 2. We're going to do 4. We're going to do 6. Okay, so what I'm going to do for the codes quickly is, first of all, I'm going to show you what it looks like. You'll see the check engine light went out when we started the engine, so there are no codes there. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to show you what it looks like when you have no codes on these older generations. So first of all, I'm going to bridge this terminal over here, and I'll go through that in a second. But you'll see that the check engine light is just consistently flashing. Okay. So in this particular model, that means you've got no codes whatsoever. All right, so you saw me bridge that there and you're wondering why am I doing that? Okay, so to read the codes on these old non-VVTi 1UZs, they're not OBD2 compliant. So what we need to do is we need to use the old-fashioned method of getting the codes from the check engine light. Now, with this harness, obviously, I'll send out to the customer a massive code listing, so he'll have all of that information to work from there. We are actually going to make a code happen by removing the map, so you can see how to do that, and I'll go through that process. Now, depending on your IS200 and the year it was made, that's going to tell you determine how you can read the codes. On the previous 2001, so 2001 backwards models, you had that little diagnostic port that I was using there. Okay, so that's how you can tell whether it's a before 2001 model. On the 2001 plus models, they didn't have this diagnostic port. So you have to use the OBD2 plug. Now the OBD2 plug is on both. Okay, so you have the OBD2 plug on both models of IS200, but on the later ones they scrapped the diagnostic port in the engine bay and they just went with the OBD2 port. So to read codes, you can get yourself a paper clip, small piece of wire, or whatever you want. Pin 4 and 5 is on earth, so you can choose either or, and then pin 13 on the other side here. You see that 16 permanent power, you got a gap under 15, 14 is to do with ABS and TRC, and number 13 is TC. So basically all I'm doing there is I'm bridging E1 and TC in this particular port over here, so you can actually see inside there's a little header, and you'll see on here you've got E1, which is that one over there, and TC's that one over there. You can see there's almost nothing in here, there's just that one, those two terminals over there, and then TC over there. Okay, so the other thing that it does when you put it into diagnostic mode by bridging those two ports is it actually locks the timing at 10 degrees. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this motor up now, and I'm going to bridge that pin, and if you didn't notice the first time, listen to the note of the engine. You'll see how it dies down because it's actually locking the timing at 10 degrees. So see if you can pick that up a second. So let's just start this up. Okay, so we've got that. And as I bridge it, okay, so hopefully you heard that. Now, the reason that it does that is so you can check the timing on your engine. So if you have a look at your little cover down here next to your crank pulley, you've got 0, 5, 10, and 15 degrees. On your crank pulley itself, you are going to have a little indentation or a marker whereby you can actually check the timing with the timing light. So the reason it locks it at 10 degrees is so it's super easy. You can take a timing light, take ignition coil 1 plug lead, stick your timing light on there, put it down on your crank pulley there, and you can check the timing. So you can make sure the timing on the engine is accurate. So you know it should be locked at 10 degrees. It's a nice little easy way to tell whether your timing, your cams have jumped a tooth or something like that without having to pull everything apart. You can literally just chuck a timing light on, check on there, and you can say, oh, it's 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees out. So you know it jumped a tooth, etc. All right. So what we're going to do now is, you've seen what it looks like when you have no code. So in other words, just the consistent flashing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull out this MAF plug. Okay. So now we have no MAF connected. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fire it up, then you're going to see the check engine light, okay, it's going to come on as we're running. So again, ignition on, check engine light on, start it, it goes off, and then it comes on. Okay, all right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to this one. Now if we disconnect the MAF, what we're looking for is code 24, which is inlet air temperature, and 31, which is MAF. So if I start reading the codes now, you'll see it's no longer going to flash consistently, it's going to flash an actual code. So as I bridge it, so we've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 24, 1, 2, 3, and 1. In a long pause, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and as I let go, you'll then see the light just comes back on solid. All right, so you're basically reading it like Morse code, okay? So you can see there what it's doing is it's flashing twice, then pause, then 4 times, then pause, then 3 times, then pause, then 1, then pause. So you group them together. So you got 2 and 4 is 24, 3 and 1 is 31. All right. So let's say, for instance, you had like one of the lambda sensors gone. That would be 21, I think, and 28. So you'd have like a 2 and a 1. Coolant temp sensor is 22, so it'd be a 2 and a 2. So basically what you can do is you can work out what is causing a problem. And as you can see, if there's a vital sensor like a MAF or a coolant temp or a lambda or something like that, the check engine light will come on. Okay, so in its state now, as you have it wired up and as you put it in, the check engine light will not come on unless there is a fault. So there's no need to remove the check engine light. In fact, I advise against it because then you're not going to know if you do have a fault in there. Okay, so hopefully that's a really good explanation on how to read the codes, what happens when you do, etc., etc. So you guys, and again, Nathan, obviously with this harness, you're going to get, as part of the welcome pack, you'll get a listing of all the codes so that you know what to do. So you can print it out, laminate it, keep it in your car, do whatever you want, because all you need to do to read codes on this thing is have a paperclip handy. There's no special tools required or anything like that. Okay. All right, so now what I got to do is get this all boxed up and get it off to Nathan. If anybody of you have any questions, please let me know down in the comment section, or you can message our Facebook page and my wife will get back to you as soon as possible. But yeah, we're going to get this off, get off to the customer. We'll have the pictures of what it looks like all complete on the table. Those will be coming up in a minute. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.